And the NIS. Okay. What happened to pensioners' money from the NIS? We'll still try to get Mr. James with us. Yeah, but that's where we are at. Okay. Yeah, so Mr. Williams, what the weather is like over there? Is it still hot or is it getting colder?
Hot, we far away from hot right about now.
Okay.
Just going off to just started spring, but
Mhm.
it's around as we speak. It's 7 degrees.
Okay. Okay. All
It's,
right.
it's not so nice today. Yeah,
Okay. All right. Well,
it's
nonetheless.
as in night. Again, as the sun disappears,
Mhm.
it always tend to be a little bit cold at
Mhm.
nights. But it's
Okay.
getting a bit better during the day. You get a bit more
Mhm.
sun, so it's all uphill from now.
Okay. Some
Yeah.
persons say that they don't ever want to travel in these cold places. Give us a taste as to what exactly 7 degrees feels like. Is it like if you
But
put your hand in a freezer and it stay in the
yeah.
freezer for a little while, or I don't what? Tell us.
Well, 7 degrees, it will be like it will be like a culture shock to the body.
Okay.
Because we're from a tropical region, anything that hit around say 20, we'll start to feel the difference. But 7 degrees will feel like extreme cold. But what
Okay.
I'll say to anyone, when you travel to these places, what is more important is to keep yourself as warm as possible because as we operate under our body temperature is naturally of warm blooded. So it's always
Mm-hmm.
good to keep yourself warm. And the weather
Mm-hmm.
changes so quickly, you don't take any chances because you can go in town like today was very warm. And sometimes it all depends on how far you have to travel before you get to your destination. The weather can change on you. So you don't take any chances. You always be prepared.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
there's a saying if you put on enough clothing, if it get warm, you can take off some. But if you don't have enough, the dog dead. You know?
You really say that. So I mean, okay, so you put on like three shirts, three pants, what that sort of thing,
Well,
and then as you get into
man, the first
yeah.
time, when you're home and thing, tight pants is only for ladies. So yeah, some things you call long john. They close fit. So when the first time I put on one, you feel different.
Okay.
but, but what you do, what do you do? You put these on under your trousers, well, pants,
Okay.
as we say,
Right.
and
Right.
that kind
Right.
of help to keep your body heat. So it add just that extra layer. It make a difference.
Right.
Um,
Indeed.
yeah, and then you put on a few layers. It's really down to your personal comfort, and then the outer layer now will be a good jacket that make the difference. And thermal hat because if you're not used to it, your ears can feel fairly cold and you might need some gloves. You just keep yourself warm and complete. Even the
Mm-hmm.
socks you wear is a different socks you wear in winter compared to summer. It should be a bit more thick, so
Okay.
yeah. So it's a great experience though. As I said, the main thing is to keep yourself warm. The culture is different, the food is
Mm-hmm.
different, the social life is different. So it's a great experience for anyone who is traveling. I just tell them, just keep yourself warm and just embrace the
Right.
differences really. Yeah.
Indeed. Well, we have sunshine to export from these parts. So if you want sunshine, just say how many bags you need, and we'll send. We'll export the sunshine. Beautiful.
I don't
Ah,
think
the
the
days we
sunshine could
told
ever
me
be
again
enough,
with
man.
before.
Yeah.
Huh?
That's
Yes.
when you miss home. That's when you end up appreciate home a bit more because
Yes. Yes.
we have sunshine in abundance. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to really, except for like December, January, the nights tend to be a bit
Mm-hmm.
different. But home, you don't
Right.
have to worry that much.
Yeah.
The food, the
Mm,
people, that's when you miss home. Traveling
I
abroad,
get it.
you end up appreciate what you take for granted at home.
Right. Right. Now we're
Yeah.
still having some problems connecting with Mr. James via WhatsApp, but nonetheless, we will keep trying as he has assured
Okay.
me that he's in a position to receive calls. So we did try, and I'll continue so to do. Nonetheless, what
Okay.
happened to the pensioners' money from the NIS? We'll look at a bit of history of the National Insurance Scheme, and we will look at a few bits and pieces from letters from people like Glenn Jackson, though he's dead, I should say, he speaks from a newspaper article that he had written in 2005, just to give us a background as to where we are headed in terms of, and some newer information that we have received concerning our pensions and the use to which the pensions are being put at this time. So indeed, we are coming to you with the compliments of www.behillnews.net. It's about radical radio right around the world. The number to call us is 1-784-529-8518 or text us at 1-784-491-3923 or write to us at belldnation@gmail.com. St. Vincent and the Grenadines' finest wines produced by Dave Roots. And for more information, please call him at 1-784-593-1564 or to place your orders for vegetarian foods at through us at Pesco Vegetarian 1-784-491-3923. All right. So of this and that, we would spend a few minutes on that. And today there's a comment that came from someone, and she said, I am afraid of what people will say if I join a new political party, because there is talk that there are several groups that are at this point trying to form or will form a third political or fourth political party if we were counting for over the years, or fifth or sixth political party. Some of them, of course, are defunct. But yeah, so she said, I am afraid of what people will say if I join a new political party, although I feel it is the correct thing for me to do. My hopes and aspirations is to do my best for our people in St. Vincent. And I know that I am not on an agenda of hatred for anyone. Tell us if you are one of those who will hate people and treat them bad if you and your party get into power in this country. End of quotation. So you have anything, any words of encouragement for this person, this female, who said that she's afraid of what people will say if she joined that party? And is it? I remember some months ago, before you answer, some months ago, there was a talk that if you leave the political party, you would be what? Either dead, politically dead, or of some sort. I don't want to misquote the person who was saying that. But when you join a political party, does that mean that you are going to be staying with them forever? And if so, why? I don't know. What are your thoughts? Have you come across any historical stuff with in St. Vincent that you say, okay, once you vote in Labour, you have to vote Labour until you're dead? What if the party mash up? What would you do? Stop voting?
Well, I
Give us some
mean,
thoughts.
there's nobody who could actually who can actually dictate your choice because it's a democratic decision and it's an individual and personal decision, and you can actually decide your party, which party you want to support, on various aspects. You can have, which is the one that is destroying the island at the moment is a party loyalty. So
Hmm.
that can be one aspect. But then if you're more of a patriot, you will actually vote a leader who seems to can make an impact to take the country forward. And
Hmm.
then there might actually be um there can be other factors because there's also speculation that the floating votes, people who can just be bought at last minute for a 2 box of chicken back, some blocks, some lumber. And these are things that, speculation how in terms of campaign. So, but really and truly, if we really want to take our country forward, we have to vote on issues that benefit every Vincentian. And also those who are visiting, because once you're visiting, even though it's temporary, you want to actually make that trip something that you can remember and also can even promote the island to recommend to your friend that, St. Vincent is the place to visit or one of the places to visit. So, but I've heard it several times that there seems to be an element of fear, not only to in regarded if someone want to change their political affiliation, but fear of even speaking out. And what is really interesting is that you the heavy-handedness of the police officers. I mean, obviously they're working on instruction, so it's just is that form of intimidation. It's naturally after a while you continue to suppress people. It will take a toll. So, but what we need to find out is what is causing that person
Okay.
to fear to actually make a change in terms of their political affiliation because you shouldn't be fearing anything.
Right, right, right. Okay. I think we have Mr. James with us. Good evening, Mr. James. Welcome.
I have to apologize for this.
Okay. All right. So I think you're traveling, which adds a nice aspect to things here on our program, showing the connectivity. But nonetheless, if okay, so you have plenty noise. Okay, well you will stay with us. You will stay with us for as long as possible. Yeah, you will stay with us. Okay. All right. So are you alone? Are you all alone? All right. Okay. Well, we appreciate. Okay, he made contact, and
Okay,
he's having
that's
some
good.
great difficulty there. Yes, I had great difficulty there in terms of connectivity. But nonetheless, that
Okay.
is how we operate here through the kind compliments of www.behillnews.net. It's about radical radio right around the world. We thank our sponsors for being with us this evening. And our topic is what happened to the pensioners' money from the NIS. Before we get that, we were finishing off here with $25 in a t-shirt, 2 boxes of chicken. Those are short term in terms of meeting the needs of persons. And when we don't vote along policy lines, but rather we vote according to party. There was a campaign the other day stating that you must own your party, but we say here that you need to own your country and move beyond
Exactly.
idea that all you will have is the immediate need that is being met. And nothing wrong with boxes of chicken or a nice t-shirt. Nothing wrong with that, or even $25 or $100 in a t-shirt. But you find like 2, 3 days before, even the night before, and I'm talking from what I've heard for some guys in a particular constituency, and they said, look, we couldn't vote against a particular candidate, even though we were given these quote unquote bribes. So the last minute vote, the last minute encouragement to switch from one side to the next. I believe that's an occurrence over the years. What encouragement would you give to somebody, especially if they are really in dire need of a $25, or they may not need a t-shirt, 'cause a lot of clothes, around the place. But nice $25 could go a long way for a very poor family, and we have a lot of the poor classes of people here in St. Vincent's and the Grenadines. How do you refuse a $25? What you saying? What you saying, Mr. Williams? A
Well,
new
you see,
candidate come on the scene and they want a little something. Yeah.
this is exactly where this program come in because, you, as we say, a hungry man is an angry man. And if you have somebody who is actually going through poverty, it'd be hard for them to resist that. And this is exactly what is happening, that we create a poverty mindset and then you control the people. But this is where we come in now to try and educate our people that we are now teaching you how to fish than to just give you a fish. So what is happening here? They're just being given a fish, and then if you play into people's emotions, obviously they will actually think short term or react short term. So this is where we come in now to try and educate our people, and also to build that courage and to show them the impact of that short term, or not even short term. Let's stop nice it up, bribe, because then again, if that is actually something that can be proven, it does not reflect good for whatever political party. So we have to call it what it is. Then we don't sugarcoat it and call it um, short term vision. It is a bribe. So this is where we now have to continue to reach out to our people, build that courage, give them that support, and let them know we are beyond $25 and we're not here to be bought. Because at the end of the day, we are actually creating a legacy and trying to make a better future for the generation to come. So this is how we have to speak to people and try and show them exactly the impact of being bribed.
Hmm. All right,
You know,
indeed.
so
Thank you. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
no, that's
Yeah.
it. I'll
Thank
make it short for now.
you.
Yeah,
All right. Thank you very much.
thank you.
The National Provident Fund to National Insurance Services. So we had an NPF that laid the foundation for the National Insurance Service here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And the NIS was established by an act of the first, I'm getting some narrative here. It was established by Act number one, sorry, of 1970. And so the National Provident Fund, that is, it was designed to provide some form of social protection to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And the first director was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Claude Samuel. Actually, I met him just recently, as I'm going through one area here on the western side of the island.
Mr.
And
Samuel, who used to live in Vermont.
yeah, Claude, no, no, not that one.
Okay.
He is Willie Samuel, not Willie, but Claude Samuel. I think he
Oh,
used
up
to
at
live
Dubois.
in Dublin. Yes, I'm not sure if he's still there, but I did meet
Yeah.
him, en route to another section here in the western part of the island. So we are told that the succeeding directors were Mr. Basil Coombs, Alison Lewis, Frederick Providence, and Hugh Duggan. And we want to say on behalf of the National Liberation Movement, a movement with a political arm. And this Belly Nation radio station is a mouthpiece of the National Liberation Movement. And we want to say thank you for our pioneers thank you for the service that they have done in terms of laying the groundwork for a national scheme, well, from the NPF, National Provident Fund, to the National Insurance Services. We thank you for your service. I am not sure if everyone there still alive. Not sure, but somebody could call and help me out there. I think I was Hugh Duggan, and possibly Hugh is still alive. Yeah, but I'm not sure about the others. Alison Lewis, I knew him very well. And within the credit union sector, he would visit here and there. And Fred Providence, I know of him. But that's besides the point, you know. One of these days, too, I would, you know, transition or would be laid to rest someplace, like many of us would. Yeah. But till then, we occupy until our time comes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The
Somebody just
benefit.
texted Mr. Claude is still alive. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
He's
Wait,
still
Mr.
around.
Booth.
So let me don't hurry him home yet.
No, I wasn't saying that. But he looks
Yeah, I
well, you
know.
know.
I get
So
you. I
thank
get
you.
you. I get
Yeah,
you. I get
yeah,
you.
wonderful, wonderful. All right. Thank you very much for that. So, yeah, may God continue to bless those who are still here to provide us with guidance on this very important initiative. And they had insight, foresight, and everything else, foreseeability, and so on. And they laid the groundwork for what we now have today. We have benefited, especially people like me who was pregnant some years ago. I benefited as a result of the contributions that I made previously. And then during the time of childbearing age, I was able to get back a return on what I had put in. So the succeeding directors, yes, the benefit structure consisted of all age benefit, death benefit to the named beneficiary, and permanent incapacitation benefit. And the NPF benefit was paid in a lump sum with interest that was based on the accumulated contributions. And the total contribution rate at that time was what? From 1986 onwards? 10%. Yeah. Let me see what year I started working. I think it was 1980. Yeah, some of you might know my age, boy. 1983, 82. Started working in 1982 with our government as a teacher at the time. And I remember a form was given to me to fill out. The then education officer was, I think, it's Mr. Ryan, one of the education officers, if not the chief
Mhm.
personnel, chief education officer. But anyhow, he called me into his office and was able to sign it up. So 1980, 83, I think I started, 82, 1982, November, yeah. And I was able to start out there and then with my contributions to the National Providence Fund. And thereafter it changed. So the benefits provided by the NPF were limited and inadequate. And as a result, in 1982, it was recommended that the NPF be replaced by a comprehensive social insurance system to provide protection for all employed persons. So the NPF Act was repealed and it was replaced by the NIS Act number 33 of 1986. So, boy, me almost as old as Methuselah. What you say?
Well, here, I was reading an article, and what
Yes,
it said there, we stop look at ourselves as old because, say, for example, if you're going to be, say, 50, you never
right.
have been 50, so that's a new number. So
It
let me
is.
enjoy the 50. So instead of we look at it at 50 years old, you've never been 50 before, so it's something new.
Oh, I hear
And
you.
it kind of makes some sense. 'Cause, when
Yeah,
we
yeah, I
start to
hear
talk
you.
about old, we start to think like it's time to just give up or take life different. But the old thing that's really kind of mental, bring a different mental energy. And it's not,
Yeah.
it's, it can to look a bit more negative than positive. It all depends on
Mm.
how old we are at the time when we start to discuss old, especially when you hit half a century.
Right, I hear you. So the
Yeah.
NIS in 1987 now, you know, the National Insurance Services, it was formerly the National Insurance Scheme. So it became operational on the 5th of January 1987. The Prime Minister responsible for NIS was the Right Honorable Sir James Mitchell. And the first administrative director was Mr. Hugh Duggan, and he was deputy director, and Mr. Christopher De Silva, and a newly established nine-member board led by a staff of 24 employees. And then he went on to talk about people like Henry Gain, Arnett Cambridge, Hugh Duggan. And I'm making a point because sometimes, very often, we forget the foundation members of an organization that we have a massive building. Was it over $2 million? Was that building there? Uptown, opposite where the marketing corporation used to be. I think there's a massive store there now. So opposite that building, uptown, you have this lofty building that is our building, the NIS building. So chairman was Henry Gaines in those early days, Arnett Cambridge deputy, and the directors Hugh Duncan, Charles Antrobus, Kenneth Gonsalves, Susan Joachim, Gurney Gibson, Conrad Sayers, and the Sunny Boys. And he went on to talk about some of the benefits that were introduced there. Sickness, maternity, I reap the benefit of that. Funeral grant, age, invalidity, and survivors. 6 months after the inception, the full sickness benefit was paid to somebody named Charles Albert Joseph. And all of this is public information. So 4 weeks later, the first maternity benefit was paid. It was $50, and the funeral grant was 500. And he went on and on to talk about total benefits payments amounted to $80,000, and the institutional's financial position, total assets, amounted to 57 million. And the net income in those days was what? 7.7 million. Total reserves were 57 million. Here, what is happening these days? You'll have one or two workers who would come to me and say, help me sort out this information. And when they do check, we're noticing something that in the early days when this team or insurance service started, some employers refused to make contributions. And now that persons are retiring or have retired, they can't get any benefit. Is that something that's what can we do to kind of impress upon employers these days to continue to. There are some employers who are very good in at that in terms of taking out contributions, making contributions, but there are forms on the site, on the website, and there are officers who are patrolling the system, the police in the system, not patrol, police in the system to make sure that persons are actually giving or paying into the NIS. What words of encouragement you could give towards employers who have refused or just negligent in terms of paying their portion, their contributions towards their workers? Any
Well, I
encouragement?
wouldn't say, I wouldn't call that words of encouragement. I see that as a form of dishonesty because what you're doing is really creating a future form of poverty for people who have actually give their service to the country. So as you're speaking, I was just thinking what we need to have. I don't know if it's something that is already in motion. We need to have field officers because at the end of the day, we should have a directory that lists all the businesses, and we have it seems like how you have what do you call it? I remember the name where the shops that actually in those days where everything was more analog that have those scales that you shift across the weight. They used to
Mm-hmm.
have to make sure the weight and balance.
I
So
think
they used
that's
to
still
have
going
to
on,
take
yeah.
them.
Mhm. Yeah, that's still going on.
Right. So you used to have to take those scales to make sure that they are verified because they say some people used to put a little bit more up on one side. So you end up getting, instead of get 16 ounces, you might get 14 or 15. So,
Yes.
so, so, so what we need to do, because cause how it's harder, when you have actually given your whole life, say for example, 65. let's say as an example. Now, when you reach those age, you're looking for something because in your mind you don't have the energy, and you're looking for something. Yes, inflation would factor in because a lot of the time when we make our pension commitment, we don't think, well, we can't futuristic prepare for inflation. But this is
Mhm.
something that we cannot prepare for. But when we factor in inflation, at least it should be livable. So if an
Mhm.
employer now eventually not paying, we need, and we talk about accountability how many times. So these are some of the changes that we need to make because if it seems to me like if you don't have some form of I don't want to say punishment, but let's use a word for now. It seems like some people that's the only way they can function. So not
Mhm.
until we make a company an example, send them to prison because sometimes money, if you have money, charging somebody money don't really inflict a penalty on them because I think sometimes is when your freedom take away, it put you to really reflect on your action because sometimes what you're doing here, that same pension money, you might be helping a grandchild or a neighbor child, even though to go to school or a little pocket money. So it's not impacting just that individual because we are family orientated and extended family. So you are impacting other people. So I wouldn't say we sometimes we don't want to be too direct as well, but speak truth to power as we're speaking about is to reawaken the sleeping giant in our people and let
Mhm.
us more engage. And also we need to have an active union
Mhm.
because that is something that I've noticed in St. Vincent. We have a union, but it is not really effective. So all
Mhm.
these institutions, we need to get them mobilized because having a union sometimes, even say for example, it may not be pension, but certain negotiation with any difficulty because home employers have more or less the power in every structure because they don't really have an active union. So they basically is a freefold um,
Mhm.
employment system we have home. And as we speak, these are things that need implementing. So I think we should have a field officer, as I use
Yes,
the
sir.
weight and measure as an
Yeah.
example, to
Yeah.
reach
Yeah.
out to make sure. I even have a special team that check,
Mhm.
okay, this is the contribution we need to make. Okay, you might be making less because somebody
Mhm.
may leave or the vacancy, but at least you have somebody making regular check because it's a knock-on effect also for the economy because the economy is also losing that extra revenue. So it go both
Exactly.
ways.
Mhm. I got some report from the Grenadines some time ago that there are certain companies that would take advantage of workers. And I'm
Hmm.
calling on those, yeah, I'm calling on those companies to do the honest thing, and that is you're draining the sweat and blood from Vincentians to build up yourself, and it's about time that you
Hmm.
decide, look, I am going to comply with the existing legislation on making their contributions towards the workers or on behalf of the workers, you know. Yeah, so I'm appealing to those persons who are not paying that it is about time we do. And I'm appealing to the workers to hold them to account, make the reports, go in, make a report, call somebody, follow up. You've been sent two, three messages before. But the issue is at the end of your work life, you should be able to retire with something in your pocket.
Hmm.
Even if it is $20 every week, you should be able to drink a
Yeah,
Marby. You know?
true.
Yeah, you should be able to drink a Marby. It's fair. It's fair. So we have
But
all this
also,
historical. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
sorry,
Go
also
ahead.
because we are aware, because if it's an established company, nothing is wrong as well because it's your money. You every 3 months or every 6 months, you depend by the you never know. We may not have to physically go to the office because now our services have improved a lot digitally. So there may be a
Mhm.
digital platform that you can make an inquiry. And if that is not there, this is something that they can also have available because it reduces the physical presence in the office and you have somebody
Mhm.
that monitoring to check, okay, I'm working for XYZ. There may be certain information that you need to verify to say that I am who I say I am and to find out I've been employed for with say Mrs. Charles' company for Doge. We don't I can't remember the name of the company, but your company.
Okay.
And I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah,
checking to
yeah.
see what's my contribution to it. So also I
Yes.
think we also have a personal responsibility. Let's not because let's also be take on that responsibility and not leave everything up to the employers because you talk about say 40 or 50 years of your life that
Mm-hmm.
you can't comprehend that damage it will do to you psychologically. So as we go along, so every 6 months or every twice a year, I check NIS because your money.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
can also be another suggestion. Because
yeah.
if you notice,
Absolutely.
if we constantly, and then if it's anything, as they say, you nip it in the bud early.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the business is pesco vegetarian. Those are two
Sorry,
words,
sorry.
French words meaning pescatarian. Yeah, pescatarian is somebody who eats fish and yeah, but we do other products as well. And we're into
Yeah.
another, variety of sales and on other things. I remember some years ago, somebody came to me and they were doing, I think it's babysitting, targeting those persons who babysit, who are house help, and they too would need a contribution. And I was able to do that. And years later, having moved from one area to the next, that particular person came to me and he said, you were one of the few who was able to at least, pay in contributions on my behalf. And I am thankful that we were able at the time to have that foresight, you know. Now you have 2005, all this stuff lie down here, so to speak, on the internet. Internal Audit Division 2003, workshops, they mentioned it. But here is it, a completion of the sixth actuarial review was done in 2005. There was the launching of a book. There was the establishment of a research unit. An old lady from the Secretariat was honored. The opening of a Golden Year Activity Center. This is a center for old people, yeah,
Hmm.
in Black Point. And the financial position on after that completion of the sixth actuarial review says that the NIS financial position in 2005 had total assets 320 million 199,578 dollars. The total reserves were 317,681,185 dollars, and the net income was 19,740,014 dollars. So even then, and persons were not, all employers were not paying in their contributions. We recognize that 2005, that's plenty years ago, the NIS was in a good, fairly good financial position. But more and more we are hearing that repeated governments would have had or used the opportunity to dip their hands inside of the funds. You think that is right, Mr. Williams? You think that's right? That the pension money is supposed to be paid back? I know they would have a policy statement or make policy decisions as to how to invest some of the monies. But I think it's right that they must dip their hand inside of the money and say that it's actually too much. It's like grudging back the money. Then you think that is right? Should they just willy nilly decide they want to sponsor a particular project? And these are monies to go towards pensioners who don't work hard. Talk to me. And this is just a simplistic way of looking at things now. Yeah, talk to me.
Well, the thing is that I'm not even too versed in terms of with the
Mhm.
legislatory aspect of if that is allowed, but we are also looking at it, as you say, from a simplistic or common sense point of view. Now, at the end of the day, when anyone contributed towards the pension fund, it's a mandatory requirement, and there shouldn't be any doubts or fear that when you get to the end of that retirement, that you're uncertain of your future. And this is something. This is one of the fund that, if it's any touching, as you mentioned, it should be investment, which is actually increasing the fund. And the investment, it should be, there should be more what we call safe investment. Like, well, there's no such thing as safe now in this world, but what we used to consider safe, like government bond or fixed term deposit, because once you've, unless the bank go under, fixed term deposit, once you've actually agreed to that rate, that return, except if the bank go into liquidation or something, that return is actually sealed. So wherever the fluctuation of the market, because we know the market is quite volatile, you're guaranteed that return. So I believe, from looking at it from a common sense point of view, that fund shouldn't be tampered with in any way to take money, because what you're doing now, you're jeopardizing, because this is a mandatory responsibility, that duty that we have to perform as a pay as you earn employee. So then you can't have a leader just going into it and take it as he feel like, because that also reflect poor management. So if it's a mandatory requirement, a government should not be just going to that fund and using it whenever they want, because it contradict the whole issue, because it's a mandatory requirement, but yet you can use it as you please. So this is
Yes.
just me applying a common sense approach, because I said I'm not too versed with the legislatory part of it as to how the pension fund is being managed. So I'm just saying, any involvement, it should be to increase the revenue, and not to actually put it at greater risk. So it has a knock on effect on pensioners when they do reach to the end of their working life.
Now, my understanding of this thing is that when the fund get a certain level, yeah, it's like you have a bag of flour and decide, boy, this is too much flour. You know, you're pouring flour. This is too much flour. Hey, boy, let me take off some. That here is a system of government that will pick up a phone and call or organize a board meeting and determine that we need to take some of this money to invest it elsewhere.
Mhm.
Then there is a cabinet, or let's say they go to parliament and you make a pronouncement, and then the rest of the public is now being brought up to speed with the fact that NIS has made a, how do you call it, has made an investment worth X amount of millions of dollars. And that is in keeping with a policy decision taken from a governmental level. And then you hear, boy, you have Luke Brown, the former era representative, I think this is Kingstown, subject to correction, but one of those Kingstown seats. He would come in and he would make certain proposals. He wrote two previous articles. We switching all the way now to February the 17th, which is just last month, 2023, and he was talking about the fact that he had written about pension reform, and they were published in successive editions of the newspapers over the past 2 weeks. And he addressed two salient issues. He said that the possibility of a public servant can have a pension higher than his or her final salary, and the non-alignment of the retirement age with the NIS pension age. And then he went on to talk here in this particular issue that he had heard, that we have heard, that reform is necessary for NIS sustainability. And in order for the NIS to be sustainable, it must have a sufficient level of income to cover its expenses. And that the NIS was established in 1987. Well, we did a little scratching of the surface, the historical part of it. In the early days of a social security, as a social security institution, the income from contributions will usually exceed the benefits it pays out, and that the surplus income is kept as reserve and invariably used for investments. And the gap between income and expenditure tends to narrow over time until it gets to a point where the income of the social security institution is less than its expense. And apparently, NIS is currently less than its expenditure. In order to make an assessment of the true condition and health of the NIS. Now they will have to take the state of its reserves into consideration. Now this is February, but I read recently where government has said that they are going to now invest in the tourism sector by building a hotel. And I am looking to pull that news item. But they're building a hotel, and that hotel would be the property of the government of St. Vincent and Grenadines and the national insurance. What is the state of tourism in St. Vincent and Grenadines? And in my way of thinking, I'm wondering why not invest in the agriculture sector? If you want to invest, you say, I have plenty money up there, sit down and you say, okay, let me take off just, 2% or 3% of $50 million and let me take that out and let me decide to invest. Why invest in the tourism product and community based tourism, CBTs? See, somebody from somewhere, either IMF or one of the major banking sectors or institutions, would have fooled us here in this small island developing state to tell us that tourism is the inner thing. On mainland St. Vincent, we don't have the infrastructure. You drive from Kingston, you stand up on one point. This is the Caribbean we're looking for, and we bring folks. There is no connectivity between all these small villages on the coast, and you drive down and you view the mountain ranges and so on. But we lack that connectivity. We lack in initiatives and so on to generate income internally. And this is no fault of, let's say, anybody else, but a government that concentrates on major projects without actually affecting or impacting in this way within the tourism product, we are not affecting or impacting the smaller man. The taxi drivers, of course, you hear them, man, Miss Charles, why? I went recently to the port and get somebody from one of the ships that came. But Miss Charles, look me here, look me here. There is lack of coordination on that end as to who gets what's, the percentage of persons who would come off the ships and so on. So that whole thing has to be restructured in order for us to get maximum benefit. And yet we're pushing ahead. We're bringing in another hotel. You see any vision in that, Mr. William?
Well, I like you. I like what you say because it's just like, okay, say, let's use a supermarket. If you open a business, you have to have something to attract the customers. You mean you're talking about investing in tourism? We have a lot in terms to offer, but how much money is actually injected to make sure that these tourist attractions are being well maintained and taken care of? Then we also talking about tourism. There's we I've mentioned it before. We have a dilapidated hospital. Now, God forbid, and it's almost like identical to how I mentioned it. Infrastructure is very important, and also not also just having infrastructure is also maintaining those infrastructure. Now, look at the state of our hospital. The world is globalized. So as we sneeze, the information is out there within seconds, minutes. Now, we have someone who fall ill. I mean, could we ever be proud of saying, let's take this person to the hospital? Now, when Dr. Ralph Gonsalves was injured, how many people who have an alternative could have fly out to St. Lucia, Grenada, Barbados? I don't know if Carriacou or Pity Martinique have a hospital, but one of our regional thing. How many people in St. Vincent have that alternative? So these are some of the things, we jumping up and we talking about tourism. What are the attraction we have for tourists? What effort is being made to maintain these attraction? And when we looking at things, we have to look at things holistically. And also we have to train, because no disrespect to our citizens, but improving the customer service, and this is something that need to work on. And I'm not here to throw our country under the bus, but all we are doing is basically highlighting aspects that need improving. So, we keep hearing the PM talking about, or the tourism minister talking about tourism. It's a great idea because we want to diversify our portfolio. But one thing, as you mentioned, we have our green goal. Everybody needs to eat.
Yeah.
So where is the infrastructure to improve the agricultural sector? At the end of the day, you have to dance home before you dance abroad. And we also, when we keep talking about investors, we have seen it many times. Anytime you have a change of government, you could have change of policy. And before you know it, these investors just run and the place become desolate. So, as Albert Einstein said, if you keep doing the same thing, you can't expect to get different results. So tourism is another way of diversifying our finances, our income. But we need to make sure dance a yard first. We can find money to invest in a large prison, a brand new prison, but our hospital is declining in terms of services, in terms of the infrastructure. That doesn't make sense.
Too big stone upon a section only. Let me bell on that. Too big stone. Then a section. I want going back. They go see if it's stone and then move because up until recently, too big stone hold on a section of the galvanized. This is the Caribbean we are looking for. But we need to improve. We need to improve the toilet facilities. Look, man. Look. Watch. Is where we put in our monies. Is where are we putting those monies? The concentration of that flow. That, no, man. No. We've got to do better. But before we come on to this section with NIS welcomes the World Bank Treasury Reserves Advisory and Management Partnerships, I would bring to us that portion, and I want for us to understand how the Searchlight newspaper giving an opinion piece, a news piece from the 17th of March. I want to help us to understand what was not said. This is Bell the Nation. Bell the Nation, the biggest contributions to conversations from this side of the globe. And we come to you with the compliments of www.bayhillnews.net. It's about radical radio right around the world. The number to call us is 1-784-529-8518. Or you can text us at 1-784-491-3923 or write to us at belldnation@gmail.com. We're saying hello and hi to Africa. We thank you so much for bigging us up here on Bell the Nation. Bell the Nation! The biggest contributions to conversations from this side of the globe. And Bell the Nation is the mouthpiece of the National Liberation Movement, a movement with a political arm. And I'm speaking to us today with Mr. William, and we should have had Mr. Elton James, and I'm sure he's going to be coming on in our next phase of this program because we're scratching the surface here with our NIS contributions. Mr. Williams, here's something. The National Insurance Services on March the 15th welcomed the Reserves Advisory and Management Partnerships team of the World Bank Treasury for a 2-day technical advisory mission. You are in the services that could help us understand this. So RAMP, that's the name of it, Reserves Advisory and Management Partnerships Team. Where does really come World Bank to send them fellas for? That was established in 2001. And they say it's a program developed within the World Bank Treasury that builds human capital, delivers asset management services, and convenes a network of practitioners. Looking at it, let me read through that. This way.
They're coming to tell us, well, we overspend or we mustn't put out no more money there and them kind of thing. That is not what they're trying to tell us. Is someone else?
See, see, what we need to understand as well with regard to the World Bank. The World Bank is just the same like with the NIS. The World Bank is an institution and they are finance based. All they're simply looking for is for clients to generate income. And this is one of the things we need to understand. As much as the World Bank is there as a financial reserve source, it is a business. And also, those loans comes with terms and conditions. It's not like when you get this loan, there are also instruction that it cannot be spent in certain sectors. So those loans are not loans that is actually given to you for you to manage in terms of developing your country. They come with strict instructions. And this is where we need to have order for us to go forward. Not only about health infrastructure, we need an educated workforce to go forward. So when they fling around all these fancy words, we understand exactly what they mean. And this is exactly what the PM is struggling with, because it appears that for him to go forward, he need a lot of yes man.
Okay, okay. What do
So
you mean?
so this is what we
Prime
need.
Minister could just sit down and say, yeah, yeah, yes, Prime Minister, we'll do that. Okay,
Yeah,
Prime
we
Minister,
see it,
yes, we'll do
you see it all the time. We heard it several times that you have a lot of employees. The minute you oppose them, or not even oppose, you come with an alternative idea, because that's what leaders do. You sit
that.
down and you have a meeting and you pull the best idea, and then we agree on what is best for the country. But it's
Mm-hmm.
more, it appears to be a dictatorship. So if you don't agree with me, I put you in a naughty corner, I'll get rid of you. We had a call one of our hosts recently, and
Mm-hmm.
before he even settled in his tree, he was already fired.
Okay,
And you
okay.
have many cases of it, and not shifting the topic. You see, same with the vaccine, is either my way or no way at all.
Oh, the way at all. Okay, okay. So wait, so I
So
mean, it's like, come on, man. I mean, you the head of your house, huh? Come on, is that you don't think the cabinet should be running like that? The country should run like that. You come in, you know why your children come in late at night, and you have to put down certain rules, and then for your child to stand up and say, "Man, daddy, then you tell me certain things, me not believe in that way you say." And then you have to discipline the child. Come on, you don't think big men
um,
and women should be disciplined like that? Choke them off, slap them off if they're not signing certain documents and that kind of thing. Put them, shove them in a chair, bark after them, take a glance and pelt after them, roll up a piece of paper and put a pen inside and sling it across the room. Say, man, shut your mouth, you hear him on the floor talking. Hush your mouth and say, you don't think some of these
well,
things are justifiable?
no, and if you notice as well, it's not like, look, we this is not even him, them say or hearsay. Look at recently in the house, how our the leader of this country and one of the NDP candidates. Look at how they had it. They raffle it out publicly. So it's just to show you that the level of disrespect and arrogance of our prime minister. He can't even control himself on a public platform, especially knowing the speed of information in the era where we're living in. So he's get to a level that he don't even care. Because now, as I speak to you, I've seen that clip. I think many of us have seen it, and
Yeah,
it just showed the level of arrogance and disrespect.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Getting back to the news item, here, so the principal objectives of this 2 day mission, are to support the NIS on designing its funding policy. So we have to take two fellas from overseas who dress down in jacket and tie. They seem to be brighter than our boys here. And they come home and they're telling us how we must design our funding policy and how to conduct peer review of the 11th actuarial report So the board, the management, and staff of the NIS look forward. They say they look forward to a productive engagement with the mission team as the NIS strengthens its governance and operational frameworks, big set of words, and enhance the financial sustainability of the National Insurance Fund. In other words, Mr. William, two fellas come down from the World Bank to sit with our boys here. Well, like, pardon me, when I say our boys, I mean any disrespect. Eh?
That's how they
I don't
treat us. I mean,
mean,
I think
yeah.
it's a right word because for too long we have been always been schooled, so they treat us like boys. I don't think it's a wrong way.
Okay, all right. So we come down to, with our boys who supposed to know better because they went to universities. So as a matter of fact,
Hmm.
some of them even went to on the league table in the United Kingdom. You have some universities that are placed or positioned higher based on the kind of results that they get from each department, or sometimes an overall assessment of university. So some of our guys here who would have gone overseas to study, they have good maths and actuarial review capacity under the belt. But you have two fellows who come down, but anyhow, they come down and they decide that they're now going to do a support, and sometimes they take away your computer from you now and start to type whatever it is that they believe is best for your country to design your funding policy. The same fund that the PM and his son, Honorable Camilo Gonzalez, would have gone on public record to say that they take out how many millions of dollars. We had 2 days afterwards, them fellas come down and say, hey, guys, we're going to tell you all how to organize your funding policy. And we're going to conduct a peer review of the 11th actuarial report. And the board, the management, and staff of the NIS will look forward. They say they're looking forward for productive, well, that on gone, productive management with the mission team as the NIS strengthens its governance. That is how they're going to manage, how they're going to reshape what the relationship between board of directors and the rest of staff, and between that management team to the rest of us who are pensioners and those who continue to put pension in and so on. Right. So that's it. A productive engagement with the mission team as the NIS strengthen that their operational framework and enhance their financial sustainability of the National Insurance Fund. The NIS is in trouble. Yeah, the NIS is in trouble because that is the point that Luke Brown was saying, the Honorable Luke Brown. Hmm? He was saying, look, the NIS was established in 1987 in the early days of the Social Security institution. Its income from contributions will usually exceed the benefits it pays out. And then he went on to talk. He said, I believe that the NIS should make that information on lifetime income and expenditure available to the public. In some instances, some circumstances, the news items say reform is necessary and desirable for reasons of intergenerational equity and other pertinent considerations. A lot of big words. We have Mr. James with us, Elton James. Good afternoon,
Yeah,
Mr. James. I trust that your journey home was quite successful, and we thank you
well,
for joining us at this point in our deliberations. We have just
okay,
about half an hour or so to go, so we thank you for coming on, but we are sure going to scratch the surface here this evening. And the question that has been asked is, um, what happened to pensioners' money from the NIS? Like myself, a lot of us are pensioners here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Are you a pensioner, sir?
yes, I am. Well, I had my own experience with Clico, okay, as a Vinlek worker, and I I could give a testimony of why I'm very suspicious that we should get a forensic audit for the NIS because the plan that was set up with Clico and Vinlek workers was that they had a trustee for the money. And when the money disappeared, no, the trustee disappeared with the money. We didn't know exactly, and it was about
What?
approximately 11 million dollars.
Whoa. That's
Walker,
explosive.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because at one time they had a plan to see to build some houses for workers, village workers, and they stopped that one. Well, subsequent to that, um, we we didn't hear anything about the money because the National Workers Movement had joined the consultation with the management of INLEC was to choose a trustee to look over the money, and
Mm-hmm.
that actually failed. So that is why I am here this evening as a pensioner. I want to suggest that if each pensioner concerned could make a contribution to hire some lawyers or lawyer to work on our behalf to get a forensic audit so that we could know what's going on. We can't just let our money go down the drain like that. I mean we don't know how the money going. We just hearing and we don't trust the information that we are getting. So if we get a forensic audit, then we would know have an idea as to where we are. Because the life
What?
expectancy of a
Mm-hmm.
man, of an individual now, is far way
Right.
above 70. Some people live for 70, 75, 80. So so we have to ask question about that because right now is the only earning that we have.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying
You
something?
say, yeah, a forensic audit. You think that's justifiable? And then you say something like you can't trust them. Who you
No,
can't trust?
no. I don't believe in the information that we are getting as a pensioner from a personal point of view, right? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
talking about him, right? I don't trust the information that we are getting because you hear this and you hear that and you have no proof about that. There's no confirmation. There's no audit report to say, okay, here is it. Whether we can go on a website and see it, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Well, man, a forensic audit is an examination and evaluation of a firm's financial records or an individual's financial records. And during that kind of audit, an auditor seeks to derive evidence that could potentially be used in a court. And a forensic audit is used to uncover criminal behavior such as fraud or embezzlement. That's a serious kind of call you're calling for. That's for them fellas who heist up all them kind of books, dust off all it and blow between the covers and kind of pick out and thoroughly examine and evaluate the NIS financial records. But here we
Well,
have,
no.
I don't
Uh-huh.
know if you come in there on this when I was talking here about just a recent thing here with the NIS and the news item from the Searchlight newspaper when it says that two fellas came down from the World Bank. Eric
Mm-hmm.
Gairy's principal actuary is from the World Bank Treasury, a special team. And Mr. Stuart Haynes is the director of the NIS. And Mr. Guilherme Alves, he is senior investment officer, again from the World Bank. So you have these two nice gentlemen and our lovely gentleman who's sitting in the midst there. All them on the computers and so it's a photo op. You're telling me that they can't manage anything? They got World Bank come down here and peeping in the books. I mean, I don't know what you saying, Mr. James? That we must
But
go talk about the forensic audit?
no, but listen hear what I'm saying very plainly, right? Now
Right,
you have
right,
to realize that the money that the NIS is managing, right, is our money. It's just like I put my money in the bank, and the bank is supposed to give me account of the money of my money. If I ask for a run on a statement of the yearly statement of how my money is going. I can't just put my money in bank and they're not telling us anything.
Hold on. But here with the newspaper say the NIS, which is in need of urgent reform to ensure its long-term sustainability. In other words, they say one of these days, if we continue like this on the same trajectory, plenty of us we're not going to get nothing in hand and the pension money go run out. They say the government, which guarantees the pensions the agency provides, the government holds 11% of the NIS investments. In his budget address this month, Minister of Finance Camilo Gonçalves told Parliament that as of December the 22nd, 2022, the NIS had invested $267 million in the Vincentian economy to support economic development. So the government just whack their hand inside of the money and take out 267. That means NIS, even though a lot of the employers are, well, I shouldn't say a lot, some employers are not paying their contributions based on the feedback I am getting from a lot of workers locally and in certain sectors. You still have $267 million that this government could have walked in and pull out and say that that money is to support economic development, quote unquote. What does that mean? He said that the investment spread across the central government, which amassed $51 million or 11% of total investments in the investment portfolio, statutory corporations and state-owned entities, and 23 million for 5% of the total portfolio and local financial institutions, including commercial banks and credit unions, and 103 million or 22% of the investment portfolio. You understand that language with the ministers and the in money?
But yes, while you're saying that, are we seeing a type of development in St. Vincent? Are we seeing a type of development? And let me put it straight again. Remember, that there are some people who have been retired and are receiving pension from the NIS, are working back with the government, and they are not contributing to the NIS. So to me, this is a serious thing, because now, if you have 200 persons retiring, getting pension from the NIS, and still working to get a salary and not contributing to the NIS, so how this could be really? So how could this be sustainable? When you have 28 people should sit down home and collect the pension, and employ young people that would take about 40, 50 years before they would get pension, and build the NIS. So that is why we are seeking this kind of thing, because we want to know what's really going on.
Mr. Jem, when you just said it, that there are some people who don't retire and getting a pension from NIS, and then government take them back on contract to work in certain government departments. Is that you're saying?
Yeah, because a teacher right now, teachers know in Shattville, when they send home the teachers, them,
right?
They call them to work. They call them to work.
Mm-hmm. I'm just asking that because, but I know of some instances where people have been called back to working, and of course, they are in certain positions. They may have asked, for them to come back. I was one of those persons who was asked, or attempted to, Doris, we want you back. I said, if we reach retirement age, send me home, because I would have done over 30 years service in this country, and I am saying to government that all those, you see this thing about what you call it, because you belong to the party, loyal to the party counts. I know of a square peg in a round hole who sits every day, comes along, he gets breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and goes back, and he does absolutely nothing to contribute to the development of this country. And you call that justifiable? Getting a pension? Yes, please.
I think recently we mentioned about, and you can correct me, I'm open to correction. How can the PM boast in the last meeting, the 22-year celebration, that the country has a $3 billion to spend over the next 3 years? So what financial who is really managing our books? Because that doesn't make any sense. Because if you have a $3 billion available to spend, why is it now that you have a pension fund that is struggling and you can't balance the book? So we need to it doesn't make sense. You're talking about $3 billion,
Well, listen.
And you see, this is also when these people are talking, and that is why an educated nation is very important. It's easy to say, oh, they know what they're doing because they cast a vote, but a lot of the time, these people don't even understand the economic impact, and it is all long term with those decisions that you're making by casting a vote to support a regime. And I always say it, I said it so many times. We have made a bad decision selecting father and son in those very senior position, head of parliament, head of security, and the other one control the post. So it's
Okay.
daddy and son, They are two ministers, but it's father and son. At the end of the day, he's still speaking to his father. So there's that level of respect he will always have to have. So what Mr. James is saying, this is the point. This is where we need to, because he made some valid point. You ask for a holistic audit of our finances, because he said that's, and this is what I mentioned before, but he have actually touched it because he's a pensioner, and this is where he have a more in-depth understanding as what is going on. When you have a holistic assessment of the finances, then we will understand exactly why it is in this crisis, because he mentioned a very important point. You should be able to actually have something, whether online or whether you can check what the funds is doing. But it's your money and you don't have a clue. Somebody only telling you and you just have to believe.
Yep.
It
Here was
doesn't
the
make
budget.
sense.
Yeah, here is the budget. The budget in 2022. They say page 63, the National Insurance Services and Pension Reform. The National Insurance Service did not escape the socio-economic shock waves of the pandemic and La Soufrière. Listen to me, man. Even before that, in La Soufrière, the eruption of the La Soufrière, uncover, bloody top of what was happening up there. The NIS finances were affected by a decline in contribution collections on one hand, and increased sickness and unemployment benefit payments on the other. Me no doubt the scope and scale of the impact will depend on the duration and the severity of the pandemic. Life, notwithstanding these additional pressures on the social security system, which compounded pre-existing challenges, the NIS prudently continued its people-centered and inclusive policy measures to safeguard lives and livelihoods. And then it went on to say what the NIS do. And temporary unemployment benefits program and the continued administration of the government displacement supplementary income support program from the 1st of January to June, and how much money that was taken. Now they watch now, them fellas stampeding on our pensions. The payment of 41 COVID-related funeral grants, 181,000. The payment of 900,000 to 444 non-contributory pensioners compared to 1.1 million. The payment of 70.5 million to 8,721 contributory pensions compared to 64.3 million. And it goes on and on about what it is that the NIS, I mean, like they're washing the elbow and the hand and the foot inside of NIS money. And granted, there are some categories there just talked about that are definitely the recipients there, they needed that money. But then somebody call. Hello. All right. Yeah, but then you're talking to us now and figuring that we're stupid. Here the other thing. Kingsley the Freitas had written the last line of his comment some years ago. He said, "Is it true that NIS has 62 million invested with people? Remember that failed limited liability company limited by shares, and the National Commercial Bank has 12 million invested also. Say, I don't want to end up at the poor home." And he was making a point. These are genuine. This was in 2009. Is it true that NIS has 52 million and NCB and 12 million invested in Clico? Where all the money they go? And
Well, let me butt in here. A suggestion was made with that same money for Clico, right? A suggestion was made that since Clico owes us this money, the board of directors say that if Clico owing us this money, why can't we seize the building and gain the building? They said no. They said no, right? They said no to it. So that mean Clico go with the money and he still got the business, still got everything going. So nobody can turn on that. So that's what we want to know. We want to know what's really going on. We want to know what's going on.
all right.
Because
St. Vincent and Grenadines. Help us to understand. I think Mr. Williams, you were making the point that many of us do not understand we don't have financial education um, as part of our education process here. You want to
Well,
drum up on that again for us, please? Yeah.
well, this is why it is very important, as I said, because if you notice, we only see our politician during election time. You know, you should still go back to the community because you're there to represent us. Give us an update. We have community centers maybe in our district or maybe several. Give the people an update of what's going on. But this is exactly what's going on. There's two strategies that I've noticed our PM appears to be using. Is the divide and rule mindset. So he keep a nation divided and he rule them. Perfect example, the vax and the anti-vax. That's the latest strategy. The other system, if you watch, our agriculture sector is declining. So what will happen?
Property. Mhm.
Poverty, and then look at how disrespectful it is. So we have PM James Mitchell, who came say that we have breadfruit mentality, and what he done, he put it more modernized. Come to Papa.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you see, this is exactly, and this is what when you say, "Oh, he cast his vote," but somebody cast the vote that doesn't mean they understand. So we need to have,
Mm.
and we have brilliant minds. We do even when the World Bank or whosoever IMF come, we have brilliant minds in St. Vincent, but
That's
we
right.
also are suffering from a kind of inferiority complex that anybody who come, even a man come from Barbados, we think he's better than the homegrown.
Now that thing they change, man. Them fellas to stand up to them, this guy Frederick and them other guys over finance. And the budget director and them guys. No, them fellas are self-close Jackson, them guys. They know the onions. Come on, man. Come on. Those guys
We
stand up
have
and represent St.
we
Vincent
have
anywhere. What is
brains, but
happening?
what
Yeah, go
I'm
ahead.
talking about, this administration we are talking about, we have the brains. I know we have the brains. We have the capability. And even though we didn't have, why shouldn't we invest in the as Mr. James say? We have brilliant minds, we have young minds. Why can't we invest in our young people and have some long term vision? We have the brains in St. Vincent. We have the brains who are even outsourced, and there are people who are willing to make a contribution to St. Vincent. But with this administration, if you is not opposing, but you're pulling all the ideas on the table. So if it doesn't align with Papa, you're gone.
Yeah. What is happening is, from my bird's eye view, we have brilliant brains here in St. Vincent and Grenadines, but there is a micromanagement of all sectors. Now, coming to Papa doesn't necessarily mean that physically you go in there. A phone call is picked up. We're going to do a project down in Vermont. We're going to do a project up in North Windward. How much money to spend? It's like a child. You've got to go back to daddy to find out how much you should spend and so on. And you have permanent secretaries, you have the political system in place, you have checks and balances, because at the end of each round, you have a budget call, you still have to go and present and say, okay, this, that, and the other, and give an account as to what exactly happens within the public service. But there is great micromanagement of all the sectors. Every sector in government is micromanaged. Nothing moves unless Papa say. Nothing. And that is unfair to big men and women who manage their own homes, manage their own caboose, so to speak, and are able to delegate, able to plan and organize effectively in their own homes. But a prime minister and his administration, well, more so by the prime minister's own words, he says, I as a government. Remember recently with that with the issue with he had the API news agency. I as a government and Prime Minister, you have got to stop that. You have to stop that. This is Doris talking. You have got to stop that. And if you're not stopping, because it does appear where that 3 million coming from, who you getting it from, Prime Minister? You are our servant, and we expect you to relate to us where you're getting the $3 billion to spend over the next 3 years. Or is something you give us to hold? That's wrong. Go ahead, Mr. James. Go ahead. We have
Yeah,
about
well,
a few minutes here.
okay, what I want to say in this closing moment, right? is that we want to keep this thing on the front burner, right? Because all I see here, according to what Gerald said, is what I call the receding want of Tantalus. Excuse the language, but because you put in something out in nice and tell, oh, look, come on, look, this is nice. You know, your poverty state, your hungry state, and all kind of state. But when they reach out to grab it, they move it out. They move it out. So that is what I call the receding want of Tantalus. So we don't want that kind of situation. We want to hold on and keep things tangibly so that we can know, okay, right, we can hold this, we can look at this and say, look, this is where we are. Because we have to budget, we have to cater, we have to live, cost of living gone up. Imagine over the years, we've been paying pension. We can't even get an increase of pension. And you come talking about stupidness. We can't get, and the NS is investing. I believe probably they must have a car park and they have other investment. What should what we need to know? What's going on? And we should keep this thing on the
Okay.
front burner.
Right. I get a couple comments here. Dr. Charles, why don't you take up the mantle and form a new political party with you being the leader to move this country forward? We need a change of gender as our prime minister. Think about it, my sister. I hope those two big stones ain't dropped on somebody's head. No, we have got, no, we have got to suspend this right now. We coming back, Mr. James. You promised me you're coming back.
Yes.
Probably next Monday or next Thursday. Depends on if it be the will of the Lord that we are
Well,
alive and well.
before you
Yeah.
go,
Uh-huh.
Haman did build a gallows to Mordecai. Great, but to his greatest dismay, he hung on the fire, so he hung on the gallows. So if they're planning for this, tell them, see, where they plan, will come backfire. Tell them, so.
Okay.
Where the
All
plan is
right.
backfire. Okay.
All right. Where you plan for that fire? Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of today's program. Another exciting discussion. What happened to pensioners' money from the NIS? This is phase one. We have Mr. James with us. We have our usual Mr. Williams and your humble servant, Doris Charles. We promise you we're going to come back on this. Till then, he has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly and to love mercy and to walk humbly with God. Sing. Circling the globe, circling the nation.